we hit a rough patch after living together. You know, it started off easy breezy, but again, I'm an adult, you're my mom. It's not easy being in close quarters.
You and I can always go into these situations, call it a battle, call it a trigger, and know that you are not trying to hurt me.
As we say in the show, life is gray.
Yes.
The black and white is not real. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Life Happens podcast with Barb and Michelle. We are so thrilled that you are back with us this week for another conversation about life's most interesting and meaningful topics. If you joined us last week, you'll remember we tackled the topic of disrespect, how we manage it, the roots of it, all that good stuff. And so this week we wanted to dive a little deeper and talk more about the discernment that comes from picking your battles, when to engage, when to disengage, and where to know how to place your energy, especially when in some of these difficult conversations and situations that many of us find ourselves in. So I'm excited about this one. I hope you are too. Let's get into it.
Yeah, especially we're going to talk about triggers and picking battles.
You love a trigger, don't you?
Oh, yeah. No, I'm excited. Hi, Michelle.
Hi. Can I say something that I do? Speaking of disrespect.
Here we go. Disrespect, trigger, pick a battle.
I
Let's
feel
see
like
if I respond.
Since you've learned some of the terminology of like therapy speak, you use it a lot. Like you use trigger a lot. And there's another word that you use quite often. And I'm like, whoever taught her these words, which was probably me.
Probably toxic or one of those.
But it's funny.
It is funny.
Anyways,
it is.
I digress. Hi.
Well, I think, I do think some of those words that are named are pretty apropos. Is that the right word?
I'm triggered. I'm triggered again.
Yeah, you're triggering me.
You're not always triggered.
Maybe. No.
Okay.
No, this is going to be a good conversation. I'm excited about it.
There is an interesting dynamic that comes because, you know, we talk about this show from our lived experience, of course. And obviously everyone's lives are unique and it's not a one size fits all when we talk about any of these practices. But certainly when it comes to disrespect, when it comes to difficult conversations, setting boundaries, standing up for yourself, I think there has to be an element of balance when it comes to the lens with which you view some of these things. Because I think if not, everything will become that. Like, I know we talked about this on a recent episode where if you're constantly looking for proof of what you believe, like you will find it. Like if I'm looking for proof that I'm, not good enough, ugly, not smart enough, I can find that in the external world. And I think it's important to, of course, have the acknowledgement that life is difficult, life is challenging. We're in very stressful times right now. But sometimes I think if we focus too much on the disrespect that's around us, the entitlement that surrounds us, like we're going to look for it and therefore be all consumed by it. All of that to say, I think I'm excited about today's conversation to talk about discernment when it comes to our energy and when how to know when to speak up, how to know when to maybe pull back and just, process your emotions, of course, but maybe you don't need to say something. How to know when something is deserving of your time and energy and when it's not, so that, of course, you're conserving your precious energy, but also so that you're, like we talked about last week, being that person that's creating the change that they wish to see. So I know it's very nuanced, and I know, there's lots of layers, which you love to dive into. So I'm excited about that.
Me too. And I think when we use that quote, be the change that you want to see, it means the change internally first. I always kind of forget to say that, but it means like the change you want to see inside yourself, because you're becoming your own best friend, as you talk about, and you're also kind of the scientist of your own life. So you're starting to see, what do I value? What is a trigger? Time is our most precious resource. Where do I want to spend it? And who do I want to allow entry into my little time world or into my world of all of the things that I do in life? So I think that's important. And then also I believe that when we become the best version of who we are from the inside out, we start making positive changes in the external world as well.
Well, and to add, when you started Peaceful Mind, Peaceful Life and started doing a lot of your programs and workshops about meditation, you use the motto, outer peace begins with inner peace, which is that, offshoot of the Gandhi quote where, if you want to see peace, cultivate peace within yourself and then spread those seeds, which is not that I'm, giving an ad for all of our brands, but that's
No,
why we
but
have the
it's true.
dandelion in
Yeah.
our logo for Peaceful Mind, Peaceful Life, because it truly does, emanate that one seed can be planted and then another and another. And that really is like, I believe, and I know you believe, how we
Yeah.
see change.
Well, spreading the seeds of positivity. And I think part of the thing that we're going to talk about today, and what actually we dove into last week with disrespect, is that we do, time is our most precious resource, and where do we want to spend it? And I think sometimes we don't think about, I know as I've gotten older, it's become a real thing for me. Like, I really protect. And when I say protect, I don't mean I wall people out.
Right.
It's like I take stock in and I think about, is this worth my time? And do I want to re-enter this relationship? Or do I want to have this conversation? Or do I want to say yes when I really do want to say no? All those things that we talk about all the time. But I think it also means that we value ourselves so much. So I feel like the crux of everything you and I talk about and everything that we live in our lives is that we have to have the relationship with ourselves so that we can know.
Yeah.
The awareness is key, and then recognition when we notice, oh, yes, I said yes to this and I wish I'd said no. Like, it's always about awareness and knowing ourselves. So I
Yeah.
think the whole journey in life is to know who you are.
Yeah.
And so this is another example. This episode will be, how do you pick your battles, and even understanding what's necessary and what matters and what is precious, and, really regarding ourselves, not in an egotistical way, but in a way that really honors who we are. And I think when we honor who we are, we end up honoring the other people as well.
Absolutely.
So-
I think there is that element of like, we are mirrors for each other. And when you honor yourself and stand up for yourself, you can show that and reflect that for someone else. So
Yeah.
I absolutely believe that. And I think it's important to know, especially when we're talking about some of these difficult situations, it's like knowing that not every conflict deserves or needs your attention or energy. You don't have to show up to every fight that you're invited to. You don't have to battle every little thing, because again, if you look for it, you could find a place to do that in every single moment, especially with social media and the internet. Like,
Yeah.
you could get into the comments of someone's post and battle it out all day. And I think too, it's like, thinking about, as you were talking, have you ever had someone in your life that's like kind of a contrarian, where they just want to, everything you say, they say something back? It's like, that's the opposite of picking your battles. They want to battle it all. So just knowing that, like, if you sometimes feel exhausted by that energy, having the discernment of, I don't need to interject here. I don't need to speak up. Even if I know that I'm right, and if it's in like, a benign situation, like, I can just let it go. And that to me is like letting go, where it's just, I could say something, but it's not going to add here, and it's not a valid use of my time.
And I think, though, the end of the story on that particular teaching or that particular experience that we've had is, when in the letting go, you let it go, but then you also look at, wait a minute, now for the future, if I'm in another situation like this with that same person, how will I respond? What action will I take? And the action is going to be different, because I'm not going to respond with, oh, sure, let's do it. I'm going to say, wait a minute, the last 4 times that I've had this similar experience, it didn't go well.
Yeah.
It really did affect my mental, health, my mental wellness. And I went away thinking, oh my gosh, why did I waste the time with this person? I've been through this 10 times already. And I keep thinking that the end result is going to change. So I think about that Einstein quote, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. I use that a lot in my life.
And in this show.
And in the show. So as a clue, or like as a little tool, if you find yourself going back into a situation, trying to have a rational or open, maybe even rational, even an open conversation, thinking that something is going to change this time, and it doesn't, it's a clue. Mm-hmm. And I kind of calling clues triggers, I guess, when you brought up that word trigger, that's kind of been my thing. It's kind of,
They're the clues of the scavenger hunt of life.
Well, I use trigger because I want it to be so dramatic that I don't fall back into that same situation. I think that's where I've become more, dramatic a little bit sometimes in my views and in my thoughts, because
in the spirit of respect, I will not comment on that?
Well, I fell right
you
back
have
in.
become dramatic.
When I want to get my own attention, I don't think I'm necessarily dramatic with other people. I'm very dramatic with myself. Maybe
kidding,
you,
I'm kidding.
because you're a different story, which we'll get into a little bit today. But no, I fell right back into and I call it the lion's den. I fell right back into a situation. I, was married to someone for 33 years, and I had to have a conversation with them about something that I wanted, that I thought would be easy breezy. And I thought, oh, this will be okay, because they're certainly going to understand what was happening. And because we do have some interaction, very rarely, but once in a while. And sure enough, it was the same person that showed up for that conversation. And I was like, what? What's happening here? And when I walked away from that, I was so angry with myself.
Because you crossed your own boundary.
I crossed my own boundary. I said, we're divorced. I wish you well. Bye. There's no other answer to the relationship that we have. There is none. And so I jumped right back in thinking somehow I got swayed in whatever I was thinking. And I think the reason I got swayed is a little bit of time had lapsed.
Yeah, you get false confidence.
Yeah. And I thought, oh, this is a black and white scenario. This is like a no-brainer. And,
as we say in this show, life is gray.
Yes.
The black and white is not real.
I was really taken aback. So I lost, a good 24, 48 hours of, calm and ease and time. See, I think this episode for me is about time as well, that not only are we beating ourselves up or feeling guilty or angry or all of the things or irritated, think of the energy, which I believe time is energy. Energy is like, think of the energy that was wasted and the time that was wasted, that I wasted, like having the internal mental argument in my brain about how could this have happened again? And, oh my gosh, what is wrong with you, Barb? You are the problem, because how did you not know this was the problem? Kind of like that spinning thing in your head. I remember thinking that, and then like 48 hours later, I'm thinking I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
Can't figure out why I show up with you to do some work. And I'm like, Michelle, I'm really tired today. Oh, did you sleep well, Mom? Not really. Well, what's happening? So you start to know yourself so intimately that then you don't beat yourself up anymore. Then I laugh, because when I was telling you the story, you're like, hello, you didn't know any better, sweet mom?
Sweet mom. I will say, and this is kind of, an offshoot about what you were just saying, but there is something to be said about when you're on a personal development journey and becoming your own best friend and becoming connected with yourself and knowing yourself, you do build up your confidence within yourself of knowing that you can handle a lot of life's challenges. And I don't know if anyone else listening or watching, or even you, can relate to this, but I do often find that there are times where I'll feel super confident in a situation and almost like trick myself or test myself and say, you're so much stronger than you are now. You could go talk to that person and handle it super well and not let it bother you. Or you could go see what your ex-boyfriend is doing and how his new girlfriend is doing on social media and not feel triggered. You can go out with some friends that make you feel bad about yourself because you've evolved so much since, the last time you saw each other. You can handle it. And that's also like, something to think about when we talk about choosing your battles, is like, you don't have to keep putting yourself in some of these difficult, triggering, confrontational situations to prove that you've healed or progressed or learned or moved on. And I think that was kind of an example of what you did in your example, where you're like, I'm good. This isn't going to bother me at all. And it might not have bothered you as much as it would have at one point or another, but you don't need to test yourself or prove anything to yourself by, doing that.
No, and I'm going to go one step further, Michelle, and say, just stop it. No,
Okay.
I mean, that's what I said to myself. Barb, stop it. Like, we have to be stern with ourselves too. When I say develop a relationship with yourself.
And have people, because I was like, don't do that anymore.
Yeah, exactly. You said that to me, of course. But just do it to yourself too. It's not being cruel or unkind to yourself. It's truly, Barb, I care about you. Just stop it. Because sometimes we need some very direct language, because that was lunacy.
Yeah.
33 years. I know the deal.
Doing the same thing, expecting a different result.
I mean, it was lunacy. And it wasn't pleasant. And it was an intentional, I believe, because it's what I knew to be true all those years, an intentional act to make me feel bad, to make me feel like, who are you to even ask me that question or ask me for that? So it was all the way around a really not great, to say the least, and terrible idea. So I got very strong with myself.
Yeah.
And even though I felt like I'd had boundaries and I knew that I was done and all that, I got very strong with myself. You crossed your own boundary, Barb, and not to beat myself up. I think there's a little line between, being unkind to yourself, but being like a stern parent or being like a very caring, really caring parent. Stop doing this.
Yeah.
You know how you're going to feel later. You know that the result is going to be what you already have experienced and know what it's going to be. So it was powerful. And that's why I wanted to share the example. It was very powerful. And sometimes we have to be more stern with our voice and more stern with ourselves to get the message across, because we're human. And we really want, especially if it's a relationship that we, and not in this case, I don't care about this relationship anymore. I really am done and I want no contact and don't care. But if it is where there's a little gray area, where it is a relationship that we care about this person, but how can we stay true to our values and our boundaries and take care of ourselves? We talk about protecting your peace, and I know that's a thing on social media quite a bit. But I mean protecting your strength too.
Right. Protecting
your power, protecting your the caring about yourself.
Right.
Not putting you in a situation that is not going to end well. And if you have that probable thought that, oh, maybe it might, don't go there.
No.
Just don't go there. It's not worth it. We only have limited time. It's our most precious resource. And when you start to have those kind of conversations with yourself, you really don't do it anymore, because it really is a trigger for me.
Yep.
When I start to step into some place that I know is like, I'm calling it the lion's den on purpose, because I certainly don't want to jump into a lion's den for real. You're going to say no. You're going to protect your space. You're going to protect your life. You're going to protect your time and your energy.
And interesting too, I know this was a severe example because with this specific situation, the relationship is over. You don't have to communicate with this person and you are no contact. But it's, that since you brought that up, you and I were talking before we hit record about some examples of this, and as our viewers and listeners know, I mean, obviously we spend a ton of time together. You are my mom. I am an adult. That brings up a lot. We work together. As many of you know, we've been living together because of a flood in my apartment. And it's a lot of togetherness time. And I think I've learned more than ever the power or the importance of choosing your battles, especially if it's someone you care about and if it's someone that you are in close contact with on a regular basis. Again, if you look for reasons to pick a fight with someone, you will find them everywhere. And for me, and again, as before we started,
I have no idea really what you're going to say.
No. Before
we had this little conversation, but I don't know what the little juicy.
Before we started, you were like, I don't think you pick
is.
your battles. You come at me at a lot, which, good to know. But I've found that, and maybe when we hit a rough patch after living together, it started off easy breezy, but again, I'm an adult, you're my mom. It's not easy being in close quarters. And so we had some bumpy moments where we knocked heads, and just that happens. And I say that just to, vocalize it, that we are not a perfect mother-daughter. We have issues.
Yeah.
Anyways.
For sure. I mean, we've talked about that before. Yeah. It's so true.
But it's ongoing.
And it can be difficult. And I just want to say, I think even the title, Pick Your Battles, I'm not sure I want to title this episode that.
You wouldn't title it that.
Because I'm thinking about, battle to me is, I'm a very nonviolent person. I think I was born that way with all the trauma.
I sometimes call you Violent Barb, though, as a joke, but when you choose violence.
I know, but I have a little bit of an aversion.
Yes, I know.
And so battle to me is kind of a violent thing. So trigger is also a hard thing. So I think when we use different words, that idea that it gets triggered can also set the tone for the conversation, which sometimes can also cause the issue between the two of us.
Right.
Like, you're pretty head on.
I am?
I think you can be pretty head on. When something is bothering you or irritating you, you either shut down completely or you go all out. I think there's not too much of a middle ground in there.
Scorpio,
is that?
Aries rising, probably situation.
Okay.
So
I don't
I've been
remember
told.
that. No. No, and I think it's interesting to know that because I think in relationships where we have a phenomenal relationship, and I'm talking to everyone listening, you want to be able to navigate it. And you want to be able to, okay, yeah, she either shuts, I kind of know that you either are quiet and I have to say, what's the matter? Nothing. What's the matter? Nothing. What's the matter? Nothing. What's the matter? Nothing. Or, please stop eating those potato chips because you're driving me crazy. So, no,
Wow.
I'm thinking, giving examples. So it's very easy to get caught up in something like that. And you have to realize that the person that you're with, what is the real consensus or the real underlying foundation of the relationship.
Well,
And it's
right.
phenomenal. And
That's
it's
what I
really
was.
kind and it's not meant to be. So you and I can always go into these situations, call it a battle, call it a trigger, and know that you are not trying to hurt me, that I
Well,
know you love me. And so when I say my feelings are hurt, it's not that I think you don't love me. It's that I genuinely was being very emotional in that moment. So what I really need to say is whatever it is, I need to use the emotion. And I think being hurt is kind of a generic term. So now I kind of say I'm feeling a little bit sensitive today in terms of not sensitive that you can be too sensitive, but I'm feeling a little bit vulnerable. I
yeah.
think I've used that with you before. I'm really vulnerable today. And you'll say, what's happening for you? And I said, I'm not sure, but I just wanted to let you know. So if I start crying when you say stop chewing those potato chips, it isn't because I'm mad because you have that thing. It's because I'm being vulnerable and I'm still working out what is the vulnerability that I'm feeling today.
And what I was going to say about that was I've learned that when you care about someone and you become present to the relationship, you can know when is a good time to speak up about something and when not. There have been
Yes.
times where I've known that you are sensitive and I'm not going to say, can you stop eating the potato chips so loud? Because it's not the right time. But then there are times where I'm like, if she eats those potato chips loudly one more time, I'm going to lose my mind.
Yeah.
And I say something. And to me, that's the picking of the battles.
Agreed.
And even like, we have our things where little things irritate each other about each other. And sometimes you say things and sometimes you just are like, it's
Yeah.
okay. Hi, friends. It's Michelle. I don't know about you all, but as the days get shorter and the weather cools down, I find myself really wanting to make my home even cozier. Fall is my absolute favorite season to settle in, and Wayfair is where I always go to find absolutely everything that I need. I recently ordered a few fall updates from Wayfair, some soft throw blankets, new bedding, and a set of warm toned pillows, and it instantly made my space feel more inviting. I even picked up a cute espresso maker so I can enjoy lattes at home on those chilly mornings. The delivery was free and so fast, which honestly made everything so much better. That's what I love most about Wayfair. There's something for every style and every budget. Whether you want to cozy up your bedroom with fresh linens, add seasonal decor like pumpkins and warm textures, or refresh your living room with a comfy recliner or rug, you'll find it all in one place. No need to shop around at different stores. Wayfair has it all. So if you're ready to cozify your space this fall, head to wayfair.com and check out their curated collection of affordable seasonal items. From comfy recliners to cozy bedding and autumn decor, you'll find it all for way less at wayfair.com. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home.
And that's why I love that little piece of the Brene Brown quote, just keep on walking. I mean, oftentimes I'll think about that even with our relationship. And remember, we're talking about a relationship that's solid, one that is not, where you're enduring a lot of pain or suffering or stress or whatever. We're talking about our relationship, which is solid. So I think it's almost easy to say, oh, it's fine, and keep on walking and keep on moving forward in life and just letting it roll off our backs. Because it's not a battle. It's not a trigger. It truly is just, sometimes in life we just feel that way. And I want to just go back a second and take the word too sensitive off the table today.
Did I say it's too sensitive?
I did. I
Oh.
wish I hadn't said that. I want to say vulnerable.
Okay.
So we can be very sensitive and that's allowed. And I really don't want to say people are being too sensitive. I just don't like that. I think it's been co-opted by by social media and by energies out there, that there's something wrong with being sensitive. And I want to take that off the table and say, for everyone listening, like if there's a situation where you're being sensitive and it feels like it's a lot for you internally, I use the word vulnerable. I'm feeling very vulnerable today. And I don't think we have to have an excuse or a reason for it. And I think that's the other thing I want to say about this conversation.
No, it's a
I
feeling.
can be vulnerable and not know why. And if I'm with a person that loves me, or I'm with a person that's safe and that I can say that to, he or she will say, good to know, basically, kind of what you say sometimes. Good to know. Thank you, Mom.
Yeah. I think, too, what is really helpful in this conversation when you talk about being vulnerable and having the discernment of when to push and when to pull back is, having a concept of what you actually are. What are your emotional triggers? What are the situations and circumstances that have the potential to really shake you or rattle you day in and day out? And I know you've talked about a lot on the show that, name calling is a big trigger for you. And I know that, the people in your sphere know that. And so we all do our best to not engage in that. Sometimes it happens and that is what it is. But having that awareness and knowledge of what are the handful of things, list of things that really that have the potential to shift your energy in that way, so that you can, be armed for the battle if it comes, and not feel like you're at the mercy of a situation or of the external world of, oh my God, I feel so unprepared because I didn't realize that I was going to be triggered by this.
Yeah.
And, triggers, for a quick, 101, I guess, are the pain points from past traumas and hurts. And so we all have things that have happened in our past that have left marks and scars and that have shaped how we view things and really influenced our emotions and our viewpoints. And they're valid. Like, our experiences that we've had are valid. And it's completely normal and natural as a human being with feelings to have emotional reactions to painful situations. And so, again, like you were saying, there's no shame in also being triggered by things. And there's no shame in having an emotional reaction to something that happens, especially if it's tied to something in your past that is deeply painful. And having that knowledge really is a great first place to start of, these are the areas where I know I'm going to be a little extra sensitive, so I'm going to take extra care.
I love that. And I think when you were talking, what kept coming up for me was, there's a quote from the Buddha, and he said, and I'm going to paraphrase it, and he says, people are ignorant, love them anyway. And I remember reading that because one of my triggers is name calling, as you just said. And I remember reading that thinking, oh, he's calling people ignorant. And the more I, did my deep dive into studying, like I've talked about on the show, the more I did my deep dive into studying, ignorant is not a bad word. People just don't know. And I think we're expecting people to know and be on the same plane as we are values-wise, and be on the same plane as we are with our triggers or with the things that are not okay. And so I've really been very vigilant about my non-negotiables. What is it that is a non-negotiable for me? And as we just said, name calling is one. And then when people do things that are not in alignment with my values, and so I start to set a boundary, or I think, okay, I'm not going to pick a disagreement or a conversation with this person. It's really, and so I think to myself, I use that, they don't know, they're ignorant. So to me, ignorance is, I just don't know. They don't know. They don't know how I feel. They don't know maybe what the word that they're using means. They don't mean any disrespect, possibly. Oftentimes I think they do, but possibly they don't know. So I just kind of use that to myself. Oh, people are ignorant. And if it's somebody I care about, love them anyway. And so I'm going to dive into something that you're going to be shocked about, because we didn't even have a conversation about that.
Can't wait.
Because I feel like this conversation is really prime for politics.
Oh, wow. Shocking.
Because when we talk about picking battles, when we talk about people being on different sides, when we talk about, division in the country, when we talk about division in the world, when we talk about all of the things and the overwhelm we talk about so often, and disrespect last week in the episode, when we talk about all of that, one of the front and center things is that many of us have dear family, dear friends that are on the opposite side than we are. And how do we handle that? And so I wanted to talk about it just for a moment, and how I have really, it has been interesting. I use that word often. It has been interesting to navigate, how do I handle it? And the reason I'm bringing it up today is I've had some situations, I have situations. I have dear friends on both sides of the political spectrum and things like that. And you all know that I am a humanitarian. Humanity is at the core of my beliefs and my ethos and my values. So there is never any room in my life for people that disrespect or harm, people with humanity and livelihood in people's lives. I say that, but there are people that I love dearly that may be on a different side of the spectrum or different side of beliefs or different thoughts. And it's interesting to see how you navigate that. So I'm bringing this up because I use this, people are ignorant, love them anyway. I use this as a way in my own life that even though some of the people maybe in our lives, and I'm saying this to speaking to the whole audience, that you may have people in your life, and I'm not saying that you have to do this or that it is necessary to do this. I'm saying that I have some certain people in my life, especially family. I'm talking mostly about family, that I love them. I don't necessarily have much of a relationship with them, but I love them. So in my mind, I've kind of, you're looking at me like I'm nuts.
No,
you're shocked. I
No,
know.
I just don't. I'm curious where it's going to go.
Well, it's going that I'm always going to love them. I don't agree with. I'm not in alignment with. I'm hoping that some of the views that people have don't come to fruition. I'm not okay with that. I do my part in trying to, send out the loving kindness and care and the things that I do in the world, either financially or personally. But it's not necessarily going to take the love away from the people. So I'm trying to help people see that there's another path, that you can love them, but not have a relationship with them, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. And I said politics, but you can talk about it with any situation. I just brought that up because few situations in my family life have come up, and I thought, I can't not love them because I just love them, but I don't want to have anything to do with them. I don't have a relationship with them.
And so, not to bring that kind of stuff up.
Well, we don't really talk, but
Oh.
Yeah, you're right. If we talked, I wouldn't. But then that wouldn't be real either. So it's like, I'm trying to really help people see there is a space there in life that you don't have to shapeshift yourself to have a relationship when you can't. I don't know if this is making sense. I feel like I've said this the last few episodes because I've been very passionate lately. Like, it's okay that you don't have a relationship, but you can still love them. Mm-hmm. And
absolutely.
It kind of, for me, it feels like I don't now have to waste my time or energy. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to say, oh, how can people be this way? How can this be happening in my own life? I can just say, they don't know. People are ignorant. I can't stop loving them, but I also can set a boundary and not have them back in my life. And I'm not talking about abusive, never ever talking about situations like that. I'm talking about situations where it gets, where we are so vastly different. And what do you do? Mm-hmm. So that I'm not wasting my time and energy in the however many years I have left ruminating about it or saying, how could this be true? Or, we do this. We write so many stories about all the thoughts that we have in the mind, and a negative feeds a negative feeds a negative. And I could spend, if I really gave into it, I could spend a whole day trying to figure out how to fix it.
Right. Well, I do think that the concept...
are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do think the concept of loving people from afar is kind of like the end of the spectrum of choosing your battles, because it's like you've known and you have the discernment so much that like there really isn't anything to say, and so that you can send them well wishes and hold them with love in your heart, but you're not going to engage in literally anything. And that goes, beyond politics. It's just,
yes,
you don't care to have those people in your life. And I think that is like the spectrum of the discernment of knowing where to step in and when things are worth your energy and worth your time. And if a relationship is something that you care about so much that you want to nurture and continue to cultivate, if something is going wrong. And, family, friends, coworkers, any of it applies to any of it. But it really is, and we talk about this very often on the show, it's like it comes down to values. Like, what do you value? What are the things that matter most to you?
Yes.
And that will dictate who you spend time with. That will dictate when you speak up and when you maybe just sit back. That's really going to be like a North Star of sorts, because if you're someone that values at the top of your list compassion, you're not going to tolerate someone who's being harmful or hurtful. And so, to me, the value system that I have for my life is what fuels discernment. And it is that the values that I have, plus knowing myself well enough to know what I need to do for myself moment to moment, is that equation of discernment. And, obviously that looks different for each person. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect too. Like, I obviously will make mistakes and do wrong things, but I value that equation immensely.
I love that, Michelle. And I think as kind of little tips or tools that we can give, I would love to share tips and tools of what to do. And I want to comment on what you just said, because it was really powerful that these are situations. I think what really is driving me in this conversation today is situations where we actually ruminate over how can we fix it? What can we do? This is a family member. This is a close friend. What can we do about it? And so in my mind, when we know that we can't discuss it, when we know we can't change it, when we know that it's kind of a trigger, when we know that it goes totally against our values, what we get so many questions like that. What do I do with estranged family members that have such vastly different beliefs and values and thoughts that I have? What do I do with friends, that are on the opposite side of any situation, but I really care about them? How can I help them see my side of it? We get so many questions and DMs about that. And so what I've really been discovering, especially after falling into the lion's den, and then also just given the nature of the climate of the world that we're living in today, I've thought really strongly about this, that there's like 3 different ways, I think, to handle. We either can have a conversation and come to the decision that we can't, or we can't meet and we can't see eye to eye, and then we're done. But then if it's someone close or someone we really love, then what do we do? So then the next step of that is we understand that we can't waste our precious resource of time and energy trying to fix it. So many people ask me the question, how can I fix it? And you almost ask the question because we in most instances, we can't. So then you get to a space of, I love them. So this is somebody that you actually love, that you don't just care about, you really love them. And they, I wish them well from afar. And then there's another section that I have people that I just wish them well. I don't maybe necessarily love them, but I don't want to wish necessarily harm on people, but they're so against the values, or in my mind, not in alignment. And I think it's been helpful for me. It's helped me stop falling back into the lion's den of what I know to be true, but it's also released me from feeling like I need to do something here. I'm triggered again, and maybe not by something triggered in the external world, but triggered by something inside of me. I'll go to sleep at night and think, oh my gosh, I really like being with this person. I mean, I really had a good time, and, we had such a wonderful time, when I think about family, it was such a wonderful time when my dad was dying. I would fall back into some of those memories and think, oh, I got to fix this. This really can't be what's happening. And then I wake up and I spend a couple day or hours or whatever, and think, it sure is, Barb. Be at peace with it, be at ease with it. And I like to use the word be acceptance. I don't necessarily, as I said in other episodes, say let go. Accept the fact that this is the way it is and wish them well. Or send them love from afar, or whatever it is. I feel like this is a lot that's not being talked about. Saving people time and energy and what they could be doing more for their lives. But as you said, it starts with knowing yourself. And I think you should make a list. Not should. I think what's helpful is make a list of what matters most. I love it when you said what matters most to you. Make a list of what matters most and see if some of these situations in your life are crossing the line. Wow, this really matters to me. I'm not going to go there.
Yeah, certainly knowing and having that clarity is where you can start. So then if you need to make a change or have a conversation, you know, like what the first step is. Because what we don't know, we don't know. And I think that, you know, there's so much that can be said in this conversation about discernment and, you know, knowing when you want to take an action or not. And really, where we can find the answers to that as well is remembering the power of the pause. Like, so often, especially for me, I used to be such a person who like would knee jerk react to everything. I loved, you know, sending a snarky email or saying like a biting thing in response when triggered or, you know, anything like that. But of course, when I would do that, it would make a situation worse or cause more suffering or add on a layer of drama or unnecessary conflict and doesn't give space for discernment of, okay, do I really need to even respond to this at all? Do I need to respond in a way that's like snarky, or can I just say something neutral? And the power of the pause is really where you can find a space to connect, to breathe, to check in with yourself, to ask yourself questions about a situation and say like, you know, I don't really need to respond, or I'm going to wait because I don't really know what I want to say. And right now I'm going to say something that's going to be harmful. Or, yeah, maybe I do want to, you know, punch back. But you feel more in control of your life and your actions when you take the pause.
I agree, because you're not saying something you'll regret.
Well,
Like
you
if-
still might say something you regret,
Well-
but it doesn't feel so out of control.
Well, you know what, though? It's interesting because when you said maybe I will punch back, if you get to a place of taking the pause and say, you know, I need to respond to this. I want to say something because it's so egregious. I've been using that word a lot lately too. It's so egregious. I want to respond to this. And so you respond, but you've taken the pause, you've made the decision, you've taken the action. So it doesn't really matter how they respond. So you don't have any regrets. You know, I like to think that when we respond, we're trying to be respectful and not name calling and all of those kind of things, which we don't do. But it's okay to respond with some strength and with some conviction and with some, hey, you know what? This isn't okay. And not have the regret. I think that's the thing also. I don't know why I got the Buddha on my mind today, but, you know, he always said, always paraphrasing, that, you know, before you take an action, think about what the consequence will be first. Think of all the consequences that could happen. And if you're okay with the consequence, you know, if it's not, you know, look at all those things before you actually then do it and say, oh my gosh, I should never have done that.
Yeah.
You know, I think that that's kind of how I want to live my life. I want to be so mindful and thoughtful that I've really checked in with myself. I'm standing up for my value, or I'm standing up for something I believe in. These could be the consequences, but I'm okay with it. And I'm not harming another person. I'm having a different opinion of the other person. I don't agree with or approve of the way certain things are happening. It would not be how I would be doing it. And I think it's harmful. All those things. It can be the whole spectrum of all those things. And so, but I'm going to respond in a way that's with my own integrity, you know, in alignment. And if the other person comes at me or it's really detrimental in some way, I'm okay with that. That's huge. I mean, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I think that's why I think this episode is so important. That's huge, because then we're talking about picking battles, we're talking about saving time, we're talking about resources, we're talking about energy. You're not wasting your energy having regrets now. You spent enough time trying to figure out what my response is going to be and what I'm going to do and say. Now you're going to spend another 5 days, a week, a year, a month, whatever, ruminating over what you said and how you did it.
Yeah.
I just feel like being very mindful and thoughtful. Once you take the pause, take the action, and already have thought it through what some of the consequences could be, and be okay with it.
Yeah, and also, like we say, life is a laboratory, and so try things out and see how it goes, and learn data about yourself, and learn about what did go well and what didn't, what made you feel strong and confident, and what made you feel weaker or less or more doubtful, you know, what was received well, like how you felt in those situations. That's really where I think thinking of life as a laboratory is amazing, because it's like, okay, even if I made the wrong choice, even if I acted without taking the pause, even if I, went all in on something that really truly wasn't important and, ignored my discernment, I'm still going to learn something from it. I'm still going to pick up some sort of information that I can carry forward with my life. So it's like no time or action or energy is really ever wasted. It's just like, what do we do with it when the situation is over? Do we take it with us, or do we just like ignore what we've learned and perpetuate some of those choices? And that's what's cool about thinking of life as a laboratory. You learn something new, and like next time around, you do something differently and see how that goes. And then it's like just constantly experimenting with yourself, with your relationships, with how you show up, what works, what doesn't. And of course, like a scientist would, having the awareness and the presence to like take note of it all.
I love it. Genius. I love it. What do we do with the information that we've received from whatever actions or whatever thoughts, words, deeds that we've done? I love that so much. And I think it's why I think one of the episodes recently we talked about recognizing. It's why I love that word so much, because then what do I do with the information? I recognize when I've fallen back into a place where I already learned this. I have this information already. Wait, what was it that I decided that I was going to do as a result of this information that I learned? So, a recognition, kind of a recognition is now another affirmation for me that, I got this. Yeah, now I got it. Now I
Yeah.
got it.
Like
And
the lion's
sometimes-
den.
Yeah.
You're like, oh,
Yeah, I know you were shocked
yeah.
when I told you that whole story. I could see the look on your face. And just the look on your face made me feel, whoa, I did something bad.
No, I didn't have
I'm not saying you
judgment.
did. No, I'm not saying you did anything wrong, but it can trigger us like that. Ooh, I felt like a little girl in that
Trigger.
moment, because I knew that was not a good idea. That was absolutely, I'd learned that 33 years worth, and I knew it. And that's what I like about recognition, but also I also like about having a trusted person in your
Yeah.
life. So if you're in need to talk like this, like you and I talk all the time, have a trusted person that you can run some of these things by that won't judge you. I know you're not ever judging me. I know you're not ever comparing me to what you think I should be. I know you're not trying to fix me. I know you're there to listen and to give me your honest, truthful feedback,
Yeah.
even if I don't want to hear it.
Yeah. And so ultimately, I think what we hope the listeners and viewers will take from this is like really starting to lean into trusting yourself and cultivating that relationship with yourself, so that you know yourself so well that you can feel confident in your interactions, in the difficult situations in life, when you're being called to speak up or when you're being called to defend yourself. It's like you deserve to feel that your presence matters, that your desires matter, that your preferences matter, and how you show up to life and to the world, it matters. And so when you start to own that and also act on that, I think that you'll start to see subtle shifts in your life and in whole, in your relationships, in how you engage with people and interact with people. And again, what's cool about a lot of these practices, or maybe what's not cool, is like sometimes it's really subtle. You'll think that you're trying to incorporate some of these things into your life and you don't necessarily see like an overarching massive change, but look for the subtle shifts of, usually that conversation would have been really frustrating. And today, it was fine. Or in past times, I would have been really flustered or really triggered. And today I managed that pretty well. It's like that I'm handling life better than I would have thought. And that for me is always what fuels and propels me.
Michelle, I love that you said that, because I think what it brought to me was having these little affirmations that you're saying. Like when you get into a place like that you say this often, I'm going to take the win. So you're affirming for yourself this little baby step that you took was a positive one forward. Or, wow, I handled this better than I thought I would. Another positive win forward.
Yeah.
And I think you have to have those. We have to have reminders. And I love that you said that. I can hear you saying that. I'm taking the win.
Yep.
Or you said
Take
it
the
to me
wins where you
before.
can get them.
Mom, take the win.
Yep.
And so remember, a negative thought and a negative repetition of thoughts like exponentially can flood your mind and can flood your energy and your feelings and your behaviors and all of that. So it's so important to intercept
Yeah.
any negative thoughts like, oh my gosh, I learned this already. What's the matter with me? I'm a failure. Intercept them with a positive affirmation like, I'm going to take this win.
Yep.
I actually recognized it now again. Even though I recognized it 10 other times, I did it again. I'm going to
Yeah.
take the win. Negative and a positive thought can't exist in the mind at the same time. So the more you can kind of intercept that, you stop writing those negative stories that really take you down into a harmful place for yourself of not feeling worthy or good enough or that you matter, because you do. And find a community. Like, we love it that you're here listening to our podcast. We're here to talk about all of these things. Let us know your questions or let us know some of your thoughts. You do matter.
Yeah.
And you are important in life, and just know that and constantly find some way to reinforce that.
Yeah, and your peace is worthy of protection and care, and you're allowed to act from that place and give yourself permission to do so and see how you feel when you live from that space.
Love it.
Yeah, so thanks, Mom, for sharing and letting us again mine our trauma for content. We appreciate it.
We love
And thank
to
you
share
everyone for
experiences.
watching and listening. We appreciate you as well. See you next time. Hi friends, as you all know, my book, Dear Friend, is coming out super soon, and I am so excited for you all to read it. As we approach the launch, it would mean the world to me if you took some time to pre-order my book. It's so important for a first-time author like myself, and I would appreciate it so much. Thank you so much in advance for all of your support, and I look forward to seeing you all on my book tour super soon.